I supported Peter Gregory in the last election,
Yeah.
and I was very careful to make clear to all who cared to listen that I wasn't interested in any government position. I said so long before the election, days before the election, in the immediate aftermath of the election. So I was not participating with any expectation of the reward of a government office. I participated as a citizen who was interested in seeing change in my country. So even if it was Peter Obi that had won, I wouldn't have accepted a government appointment. How much more this government of prebendaliced thieves? So what am I supposed to be asking for? I don't want nothing to do with the government. The only thing that would interest me in public office is to see the change of this system, a change to a more progressive, democratic system that gives primacy to the right of citizens. That, if there is such a role that abolishes the fraudulent 1999 constitution, that might have interested me. Outside of that, I have no interest. I am happy simply being Dele Farotimi. That is the totality of my interest in governance. Seeing government that is responsible to the people, seeing sovereignty residing in the people themselves. That's what ever interested me, and I've always made that clear. If the position changed, I would not be shy to say so publicly. But these have been my positions since my interventions in the public space. I am not in this looking for office. I have no interest.
But then, speaking from outside sometimes,
Yes.
versus being able to influence it from inside, the opinion is that why not go in? If you go in, you would be able to do things by yourself.
If we were a society where citizens matter, it wouldn't count for anything if I was sat in a government office or outside of government. I have known quite a few men, good men, who entered government in Nigeria and their lives were functionally destroyed because of the system within which they had to work. Every system is designed for a purpose. The way Nigeria is currently designed, every good person who enters government working within this system is bound to fail, because the system is designed to ensure that Nigeria is a feudal state where there are no citizens, where impunity and the will of men reign supreme instead of the rule of law. 100 of me in government having to work within the system that governs Nigeria would be redundant. I am actually more useful stood outside of that system, speaking to the ills of that system, rather than to find myself conformed to that system by virtue of some office. Offices are transient. You stay there for 4 years, and then what? The next 4 years you are fighting to be sure that you are brought back into that same office. You change nothing. Nothing changes because you are there. Things would change when the system changes. It is the system. Everything rises and falls on systems. The system governing Nigeria is evil, is irredeemably and unrepentantly evil. If you truly want to change Nigeria, you have to focus on changing the governance system. Let me remind you, when Dizzy Annie, when she was the petroleum minister, they spoke about all the corruption that happened in her ministry. What has changed since she was removed from that office? Baru went there, it was worse. The current one, Kyari, he is so corrupt, it's unbelievable. You have the most opaque governance system in our oil industry. So what would a Dele Farotimi mean? What could I possibly change if I went into government? If the system changes, there are enough good men and women in Nigeria who would radically transform the fortunes of the country. But because the governance system within which they have to work is evil, they become conformed to the system and it radically changes their lives. They come out of the place, shells of the persons who went in there. I wouldn't want to be mentioning names, But tell me one person who went into the Nigerian governance system with good reputation who has managed to come out with their reputation intact. Very few, if any. So what am I doing? I avoid it like a plague. Nigerians did not settle for the governance system we have today. The governance system we have today arose out of the imagination of a bunch of thieves who call themselves the Armed Forces Ruling Council, or whatever they call themselves during Abdul Salami's time, and they came up with a fraudulent decree number 24 of 1999. That is what you currently refer to as the 1999 Constitution. Nigerians didn't sit down anywhere to agree the governance system by which they are ruled, and that is a direct effect of the fact that they had lost their rights of self-determination, and Nigerians are not citizens. So if another bunch of people sit down somewhere tomorrow without consulting Nigerians again, like they are pretending to do in the National Assembly right now, and they say, oh, we need 3 houses of assembly, we need 3 branches to the legislature, the same thing would happen. But who has asked the Nigerian? When did we have a constituent assembly where we sat down and agreed how we should be governed? Since when has the will of the Nigerian people been supreme? So today you have a crook, and I repeat that word deliberately, a crook like Akpabio sat in the office of the Senate President determining how to share what by prayer into mailboxes, and you are now talking. That assemblage is useless. It is just as useless as our judiciary and just as useless as our executives. The only thing that is true about all of that is the thieves that is behind the executives. So at the end of the day, it is not about me sitting down here and creating highfalutin words by which I propose that we should be governed. I'm not the Nigerian people. I'm but one out of a rumored population of over 200 million. We don't even know our population size because we are constantly lying for one reason or the other. For all we know, we might not be more than 120 to 150 million. But they tell us we are 200 million plus. In fact, now these days they call it 220 million. We just keep plucking figures out of the air. So this is an academic exercise that will yield us no good result. If the Nigerian is allowed to express his wish as to how he wishes to be governed, then we can begin to aggregate those opinions and come up with exactly what it is that the people themselves desire. People sit down and imagine that they know it all or they know what is good for the people, barely wasting their time.